Now I'd like to add a combo box to this interface form, and when the user clicks the combo box, which produces a list of options, and they choose a certain option, then that determines what query they want to see. So let's start by first of all returning to the design of this form. So I'm going to switch back to design view, and what I'd like to do is create a combo box, which when I look in my controls is this combo box control here. I'm just going to click this button and then click underneath my logo. That doesn't really matter where you put it. At this point in the wizard, I'd like to choose the second option, which is I will type the values that I want, and next. And underneath the heading col 1, I'm actually going to type number 1. And I actually need 2 columns, so I'm actually going to change this 1 here to 2. So when I click under col 1 in column 2, I can put donor payments. And in the second row, I'm going to put the number 2, and in the second column, I'll put pledge by campaign. And I'll just make them wide enough that they look nice and tidy, like that. So we've got 2 options. They can either choose the donor payments query or the pledge by campaign query. So I'm going to choose next. Now at some point, we have to decide what we're going to store. So I'm just going to go next to this, and I'm going to give it the label choose a query, and I'll click finish. Alright, now what I want to do is right click the combo box and make sure I go into its properties, which I can actually see out the side here, but if I didn't, I'd right click and choose properties, and I actually want to name this combo box, and the name that I want to give this combo box is query combo. And I also want to set the column widths. I'll set the column widths under all, and I'll set the widths to 0 because they don't actually need to see the number 1 and the number 2, and then a colon and 4 because they do need to see the names of those queries. What I'd like to do now is just go to form view and check that everything looks okay, so they can choose a query. They won't see the first column, which contains the 1 and 2 because we set the width to 0, but they will see the names of the 2 queries because we set the width to 4. I'll go back to the design of my query and I'll save what I've done so far, and so we've created the combo box. Now what the combo box needs is a macro that runs either that query or that query. So this is the opportunity I get to show you how to create a macro including conditions and how to use an if statement in a macro. So first of all, I'd like you to go to create, and we're going to go to macros, and we're going to drag the if from the action catalog pane, which you see here on the right hand side. And if you don't see your action catalog pane, then you need to click this button. It turns it off and it turns it on. So we're going to drag the if and we're going to put it in the macro pane, just like that. And in the box to the right of the if, we're going to type in square brackets query combo. Now that's the name of the field. That's what we gave that's the name we gave the combo box in the properties. Close square brackets equals 1. So if the query combo equals 1, I want to add an action, and that is to open a query. So I'm going to hit O to jump down to the O's and choose open query. And here I've got to tell it the name of the query, and I actually have a drop down so I can choose it. And the name of the query that I want to open is the query donor payments. And it's going to open it in Datasheet View. It's going to allow them to edit. So that's great. Then I'm going to click Add Else If. Else if, square bracket, the combo we called query combo, close bracket, equals 2. Now if it equals 2, I want to add an action, which is to open a query, and the name of that query was in fact pledges by campaign. And there we are there. So if the query combo box equals 1, then run that query. Else if the query combo box equals 2, run that query. We can now save this macro, and then it'll end the if. So if, else if, end if. We want to save it, so I'm going to hit the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar, and I want to call it MCR Query. And OK. Now I'm going to return, I'll close this, return to my interface form. And what I'd like to do now is create a button that runs that macro. So we go to the Design tab in the ribbon and we click our button control, and I'm just going to put it to the right of the combo box so they know that that's associated. And I'll go to Miscellaneous and I'll tell it to run a macro, and Next. And there is only one macro in our database at this stage, so we'll go next to that. And then I want to give it some text, ampersand view query. So they'll choose a query and then they'll hit this button to view the query. So I'll hit Finish. If I now view my form, I can choose, say, Query 1, Donor Payments, and I can view the query. And there's my donor payments, and it's verified up there as well. If I close this and set my query combo to 2 and run the macro, it'll show me Pledge by Campaign. And I'll close that. And really I just need to stretch things out and tidy things up a little bit so it's a bit nicer to look at. But that's the functionality.